Okay, welcome to a brief tutorial about using Google Earth. This video is starting with the assumption that you already downloaded the program. It's free software from Google and installed it on your computer, on your laptop. Be sure that when you go to the download site that you are indeed getting the desktop application, because most of what I'm going to be showing you doesn't work in the browser Google Earth interface. And sometimes when you go to get the download, for some reason, depending on the browser you're using, it might kind of default you into that browser mode. But you want to get the desktop application. Then get it installed and open it up, and you'll see something pretty similar to this, hopefully. Just to get you oriented as to how to move around within the program itself, like most software, just your standard drop-down menu where you can get kind of different options of different functions within Google Earth. And then also, sort of different parts of the window itself. So you've got the main window here where we're looking at Earth itself. Then we've got this sidebar here. And if it ever disappears for you, just click on this radio button and it'll hide and show the sidebar. Within the sidebar, there's a search pane, a places pane, and then a layers pane. When you first open it up, you won't have all this stuff in your places pane. When we give you a KMZ file for a lab or an assignment and you open it in Google Earth, then you'll probably get some list of things showing up in your places. But don't fret if there's nothing in here when you first open it. You should have a layers pane that looks very similar to what you're seeing here. And what this is basically built-in layers that you can turn on and off in Google Earth. So if I click on borders and labels, you can see state borders, and then as I zoom in, names will even start to show up. There's sort of zoom dependency in terms of what information shows up even with layers turned on. Photos, if we zoom in, we can see there's photos people have taken all over the place. And this can be handy actually if you're checking out a place that you've not been to or would be hard to get to. Sometimes it's useful to see what photos of that place look like. You can also turn on roads, 3D buildings and stuff. These are more things that are part of the human-built landscape that we'll probably focus a little bit less on this class. And then, let's see, places is just another one that shows you kind of places of interest. So you just click on like Uncompahgre National Forest, Comanche National Grassland, Lincoln National Forest. So I often leave most of these off except for kind of borders and labels. If we go up to the search pane, we can actually search for a specific place. So let's go to Granville, Ohio. Why not? You can see it zooms in automatically. We have a bird's eye view here. So campus, downtown. If you look kind of north, you can find certain other places like the Homestead. Here's the bioreserve. Wildwood Park is down here. So places that maybe you're familiar with or you'll become familiar with over your time here at Denison. Once you've zoomed into a place, then you can really zoom in, right? We can zoom in on campus here. Look at A-Quad, Slater, athletic fields, Mitchell Center, and certainly this bird's eye view is helpful. It looks kind of like a map. But we can also do things like tilt things so we've got a perspective view. So one way we could do that is by clicking on these arrows on all sides of this little eye type icon there, kind of what our perspective view is. When we started, we just have north up, north to the top of the screen. We could also change that. Make it so that north is to the bottom of the screen here. If you ever want to get rid of the change you made, just click on that end, it'll go back to north up. But as you've been seeing me doing behind the scenes, I don't often use this. I usually use the scroll wheel on a mouse. Or you might, on a trackpad just be, zooming in and out as you would in Google Maps. But if I'm just scrolling down on the mouse, it goes and zoom out, zoom in. If I hold the scroll wheel down, I can actually pull down my mouse and get a perspective view. If I go and bring it back up, I can bring us straight to, straight down bird's eye view. If we go to the south a little bit and look at campus from the side, we're accustomed to thinking of campus as a hill, right? But where's the hill? I've got this terrain layer checked, but it seems pretty flat. So if you find this to be the case for your Google Earth view, go into Tools and Options. And what we're going to change here is the elevation exaggeration within the terrain options. Change it to 2. I'll hit apply. It's going to kind of change even what we're seeing. Whoop. Let's go back to Granville. I'll say OK. When you change the vertical exaggeration, sometimes it will sort of freak out a little bit, Google Earth, and take you to a different view than where you were. In some cases, it's almost like it kind of expands the earth through you or something. I don't know how to really describe it, but you can always just kind of go back to your original search to get reoriented. But here now, with that vertical exaggeration added, we can see the hills both around campus and then up toward the Welsh Hills area, northeast of Granville. And while I was in there, I forgot to show you, but under Tools, Options, this is also where you would change what the format for your latitude and longitude is down here. You would change that within the tools. Also units of measurement, so we'll be working with metric usually, so you want to get those to meters and kilometers. So, okay. Now, so those are the ways to just sort of fly around Google Earth and check things out, but there's also another set of tools up here, excuse me, where you can actually mark things or draw on things or measure things. So what does that look like? If we click this push pin icon, it'll pop up a new pin. We can put it wherever we want. How about up on the softball fields? And I can change, if I click in here, change the name for that pin. And then it shows up over here in my places. And if I wanted to get rid of it, just right click on it and say delete. Say OK. The next tool over is if you want to draw a polygon. So let's say I was curious about mapping out different fields on campus. You can draw something like this. Say field. Oops. Field. Say OK. And there we've created a polygon just on top of the imagery within Google Earth. Let's get rid of that too. Next one here is add path. This one's actually really handy. So I'm going to click on that and basically just draw a line across the hill. Call it hill profile. Say OK. And, at this point, nothing too dramatic, but if you right-click on it over in your places then and say show elevation profile, it'll actually give you a topographic profile of along that line that you just drew, which can be quite handy. And if you want to get rid of this kind of graph, just click this X. Probably won't use image overlay, the tour too much. You can actually make yourself a little Google Earth tour. One tool that you'll definitely find yourself using is this ruler tool. So here I can go in and I've got some options. If I want to use this to measure a line, let's say I wanted to know how far it is as the crow flies, just a straight line from campus to the homestead. So 0.92 miles or 1.49 kilometers or 1,486 meters. And certainly folks who live at Homestead, right, they're not taking that straight line path. So they've got quite a nice little walk to and from campus each morning and evening. We could also measure a circle. This is another really handy tool that you'll definitely get a chance to use. Just a single click, and then I'm just pulling my mouse away from the center of that circle. Click it again to kind of save it. We can see both what the radius of that circle is and also what its area is. If I wanted to make another one, I can just clear that. And then, also you could kind of click out a polygon. Oops. What didn't it like? There we go. Zoom in here. And now, zoomed in, you can actually see what I sort of haphazardly drew there. You can actually start to see, okay, what's the perimeter of this polygon that I drew, and what's the area, that kind of thing. So that could be handy. But those are the path, the kind of line distance, and then the kind of circle measuring tool will probably be the most commonly used ones. Another thing that exists up top here that can be really fun to look at is this historical imagery tool. So if I click on that, we can actually see how Raccoon Creek near Wildwood Park has changed through time. So turn that on. And then every time I click this left arrow, it'll take me to older imagery. Sometimes that older imagery is pretty clear. Sometimes, especially as we get further back in time, the imagery maybe gets a little bit coarser, a little bit less clear. So now I've gone back to 2008. I'm going to come back to the present, but keep an eye on this, this little feature here, what we call a meander bend on Raccoon Creek. If I zoom in, so 2009, 2010, 11, 12, 14, 17. Whoa, what happened? The river now kind of flows over what we call the meander neck of this little feature. So the river is now taking a straight path rather than going around that bend. If we look at the present day now, or close to it, this little bend has been left behind as a little lake, and Raccoon Creek has a straighter path. So it's neat to be able to use this historical imagery to just kind of go back in time to see how things like rivers or how things like housing developments have changed through time. And then, so you want to get out of that, just click this X. The last tool that you'll find yourself using is, to go actually to places beyond Earth. So we can go, let's go first to the moon. When you load up Mars or the moon, it takes a little moment to get just those new imagery layers and everything loaded. So, just be patient. And whoa, now we're looking at the moon. You're able to look at the moon in ways you've never looked at the moon before. And likewise, we can see what Mars looks like. Okay, so here's Mars. And you can see, just like on Earth, there are, layers that get loaded up for Mars, including, names of mountains and craters and places on Mars. So let's go back to Earth. This should then have kind of given you enough of the basics to make you comfortable with, opening up Google Earth, moving around, finding a place, exploring it a little bit in Google Earth, measuring things, just getting oriented. And beyond assignments and labs that you'll use this for, I definitely encourage you to use it even alongside your assigned readings and stuff. If some place gets mentioned and you're like, I wonder what that looks like, you have the ability with Google Earth to just go and check it out, at the same time that you're reading about it. So I encourage you to do that, to use Google Earth not just when you're being explicitly assigned to, but also, just as a fun way to explore unfamiliar places. So with that, enjoy and have fun exploring with Google Earth.